Hey gang! On the surface, Space Marine 2 looks like a Tyranid invasion story, but it's not. The Tyranids are real, the war is real, but that's not what this game is about. Space Marine 2 is about what happens after the Imperium decides you're a problem, but wants to use you anyway. If you haven't seen my yap on Space Marine 1, click the little thingy here and go watch that first. Okay, you're back, good. Like and subscribe, let's keep going. On the surface, Space Marine 2 once again gives us the perfect enemy. Like the Orcs, Tyranids are endless. They don't negotiate, they don't surrender, they are the cleanest possible justification for violence. No moral ambiguity, no collateral guilt, just hunger and survival. And that's exactly why they work so well. Not just as enemies, but as cover. Because while the galaxy burns, something else is happening in the background. Titus does not return as a celebrated hero. He returns as someone who is useful. After the events of Space Marine 1, Titus wasn't rewarded. He wasn't tortured and interrogated because he wasn't corrupted, but because his resistance to chaos didn't make sense. And in the Imperium, the unexplained is more dangerous than the guilty. Eventually, Titus disappears into the Death Watch as a Black Shield, his name stripped and his history buried. When he finally returns to the Ultramarines, it's not a triumphant homecoming, he died, almost. Titus is put through the Calgarian rites, the Rubicon Primaris surgery ordered by Mr. Dad Calgar himself. It was the only way to stop him from dying and to save his life.
Praise the Emperor. The wound was fatal. You survived only through the Rubicon surgery. We remade you.
When he recovered, he went to return to the Death Watch, but he had been declared free of corruption, and to return to the Ultramarines to earn back their favor.
My honor is my life.
What is your fate?
My duty is my fate.
What is your fear?
My fear is to fail.
What is your reward?
My salvation is my reward.
What is your craft?
My craft is death.
What is your pledge?
My pledge is eternal service.
There's an important shift here for how Titus is viewed. In Space Marine 1, Titus was suspected. In Space Marine 2, he's managed. He's deployed constantly to the most violent and unstable war zones imaginable, surrounded by command structures that observe, record, and evaluate.
What, we some kind of suicide squad?
This isn't trust, this is oversight. Akaran, RIP, is in Titus's old role as captain of the Ultramarine 2nd Company. He voices his reservations about Titus rejoining his old company and the secrecy behind his lost years. Now, the Imperium doesn't need to punish Titus anymore. It already did that with the century of torture and interrogation. Now it watches, because watching someone forever is worse than imprisoning them. Prison ends, surveillance doesn't. The Imperium claims to fear chaos above all else, and yet it engineers the perfect conditions for corruption. Isolation, silence, endless war, absolute obedience without explanation. Titus is expected to lead, to fight, and to die without ever being allowed certainty. The Imperium fears chaos, but it refuses to trust loyalty unless it's broken first. By Space Marine 2, Titus is not redeemed. Spoilers, his chaplain is Leandros. He's not condemned, he exists in a limbo of useful but dangerous and unresolved. A weapon the Imperium doesn't fully understand, pointed at enemies it refuses or cannot confront otherwise. The Tyranids give the Imperium something simple to kill and gives Titus something harder to face, because every time he proves his loyalty, he exposes how unnecessary his suffering was. And this is the quiet truth Space Marine 2 circles around. The Imperium didn't forgive Titus, it outlived the need to judge him. It doesn't care whether he was innocent or guilty, only that he still functions. It's not justice, it's utility. And once a system treats loyalty as a resource instead of a virtue, it stops being worth defending. During his time in the Death Watch, Titus believed he had been disowned by the Ultramarines. After being declared free of the Chaos Taint, he was never told why he was cleared, only that he was released. With no word from his chapter for decades, Titus assumed he had brought shame upon the Ultramarines and no longer deserved their name, so he erased himself. He purged all Ultramarines' heraldry from his armor, took the name Nullus, and entered the Death Watch as a Black Shield, a self-imposed exile with no past and no claim to honor. Titus didn't seek redemption or recognition, he just chose to keep serving until he died. Unknown to him, Guilliman had returned, the Imperium had changed, and Calgar had never stopped trying to get him back. Titus wasn't abandoned, he just wasn't informed. Calgar never stopped trying to get Titus back from the Inquisition. He still had friends and people within the system who believed in him. And over the course of Space Marine 2, you also see Acheran become more trusting of him as well, at least until Chaos shows up again. So just when Titus begins to re-establish himself, Chaos returns. The Thousand Suns emerged during the conflict, revealing that the Tyranid War was never the full picture. Chaos had been active behind the scenes, manipulating events, exploiting the instability caused by the invasion. And it matters because it reframes everything. Titus isn't just fighting Tyranids, he's fighting in a war where Chaos is once again probing for weakness. And once again, Titus resists. It's a test. Just like in Space Marine 1, but this time the Imperium is watching him do it. There's an objective, find a Chaos relic, mark it, and die if necessary. The mission itself is already a contradiction. Warp interference is so severe that the Ultramarines' strike cruiser can't even lock onto the target, and instead of withdrawing, the Imperium sends 4 Space Marines to walk directly into the heart of the Tzeentchian stronghold, with a portable Geller field device powered by a living astropath. It's reckless, and it screams desperation. The return of Chaos validates the Imperium's paranoia, but it also proves their contradiction. They feared Titus because he resisted Chaos, and now Chaos has returned, and he's still standing. When they face the Sorcerer, the astropath dies and the Geller field collapses. This is the fear the Imperium has projected onto Titus since Space Marine 1, the fear Leandros acted on, the fear the Inquisition tortured him over, and Chaos believes it too. Then the Sorcerer enters Titus's mind, and it finds nothing. There's no fear, no doubt, nothing to exploit. Chaos fails to claim him again. The relic is destroyed, the signal is sent, orbital bombardment is authorized, and then the Imperium Vox calls one final message to the survivors. Die well. That's it. No extraction order, no relief force, no acknowledgement of success, just permission to die. And Titus refuses. He drags the mortally wounded Matoris out of the blast zone, and prepares to fight off a horde of cultists that just keeps going. Not because he's ordered to, but because he chooses to, which raises an uncomfortable truth. If Titus truly were a liability, this would have been where he broke, but he didn't, and he saved his brother. Titus survives, he obeys, he endures, but eventually the Imperium will have to answer a question it keeps avoiding. What happens when the weapon on the leash realizes the leash isn't real, it's just a metaphor that can be broken free from? And that is where Space Marine 3 begins. My next video in this series will be more speculative on what it will mean for Titus, who we will fight against, and the final resolution. Like, follow, sub, TYTY, check out my painting, I have a self-serve commission site, and join the Discord. Okay, bye.